Imagine standing on the edge of history where ancient prophecies meet the modern world, and a single event could ripple across nations, faiths, and generations. Today, we're not just talking about an old ritual or a piece of distant tradition. We're stepping into a story that has been thousands of years in the making, a story that countless people have waited to see unfold. The red heifer ceremony is stirring anticipation, igniting debates, and sparking a wave of questions. What does this mean? Why now? And how could this change the course of events in our time? In this journey, we're going to uncover the history, the symbolism, and the staggering prophetic weight behind this ancient practice. You'll see how this connects with unfolding events around the world and why so many are watching with bated breath. So, stay with me until the very end, because the deeper we go, the more the pieces start to connect. And by the time we finish, you might see the world around you in an entirely new light. The ancient law of purification, as outlined in the Torah, placed the red heifer sacrifice at the heart of Israel's ritual cleansing practices. This unique ordinance, found in Numbers 19, describes how the ashes of a completely red, unblemished cow were to be mixed with water and used to purify those who had come into contact with death or any form of ceremonial impurity. What makes this law distinct from other sacrificial rites is that the red heifer was not offered on the altar inside the temple, but was burned entirely outside the camp, with its ashes preserved for ongoing use. The ceremony involved the high priest and other designated individuals, yet those directly participating in the burning of the heifer became ceremonially unclean themselves, creating a profound paradox in the ritual. Purity was restored to others through an act that rendered the purifier temporarily impure. In the historical context of ancient Israel, this law ensured that the nation could maintain a state of readiness for worship and service before God, especially during times when the presence of death was inescapable due to warfare, illness, or other causes. For nearly 2,000 years, this practice has been absent because it requires both a ritually perfect red heifer and a functioning priesthood operating under the laws of the temple. Without the temple standing, and without the specific ashes prescribed by the law, this form of purification has been considered impossible to perform. The absence of the red heifer ritual has left a significant gap in the full restoration of ancient Israelite worship, making its reappearance in prophetic discussions a topic of intense interest. The rarity of such an animal, coupled with the precision of the requirements, has elevated the search for it into both a spiritual quest and a matter of prophetic expectation. Its importance lies not only in its ritual function, but also in its role as a symbolic bridge between ancient commandments and future fulfillment of religious aspirations tied to the rebuilding of the temple. Throughout history, rabbis and scholars have emphasized that without the ashes of the red heifer, certain key ceremonial activities cannot resume, marking it as a necessary prerequisite in the prophetic timeline that many believe will ultimately shape events in Jerusalem and beyond. In recent years, reports have surfaced about the arrival of red heifers in Israel that meet the strict biblical requirements: completely red in color, without even 2 hairs of another color, no blemishes, no broken bones, and never having been used for work. These cattle, often sourced from ranches outside Israel where certain breeding conditions can be maintained, have undergone rigorous inspection by rabbinical authorities to determine whether they truly fulfill the ancient criteria. The fact that several such animals have now been identified and are being carefully raised in secrecy has stirred both religious communities and prophecy watchers worldwide. In Jewish tradition, the appearance of a qualified red heifer is not a common occurrence. It is so rare that some rabbinic writings record only 9 in the entirety of Israel's history, with the 10th expected to be linked to the Messianic era. This rarity fuels both excitement and caution, as a single disqualifying feature could nullify years of preparation. The recent developments have been closely tied to a growing movement among certain Jewish groups who seek to restore temple worship, seeing the red heifer as a critical first step toward ritual purity for priests and worshipers alike. The calves currently in Israel are monitored daily to ensure they remain free from disqualifying marks or injuries, as even the smallest imperfection can render them unsuitable for the ceremony. This close observation has also captured global attention, with many interpreting the presence of these animals as a sign that prophetic milestones could be approaching more rapidly than anticipated. Beyond the physical inspection, there is a strong element of timing involved. Religious authorities must determine not only whether a heifer meets the legal requirements, but also when the political and spiritual climate would permit the ritual to take place. With tensions surrounding the Temple Mount and the broader geopolitical situation in Jerusalem, the possibility of performing the ceremony has far-reaching implications. For many, these living animals represent more than just rare livestock. They are seen as tangible indicators that ancient prophecies are aligning with modern realities. This growing anticipation is creating a sense of urgency and watchfulness, as the successful preservation and eventual sacrifice of a perfect red heifer would mark a pivotal moment in the unfolding of events that could impact not only Israel but the world stage. The prophecy surrounding the red heifer is deeply rooted in ancient Hebrew scripture, specifically in the book of Numbers, where the ashes of a spotless red cow were used in a purification ritual necessary for anyone who had been in contact with death. In the religious framework, this ritual was essential for restoring ceremonial purity, particularly for the priests, and it played a key role in enabling worship within the temple. What makes this significant in the prophetic sense is that many scholars and religious authorities believe the rebuilding of the temple cannot proceed without first performing this purification ceremony. Therefore, the existence of a perfect red heifer is not just an isolated agricultural or religious matter. It is viewed as a prophetic signpost that precedes monumental developments in Jerusalem's spiritual and political landscape. The narrative weaves together ancient law, religious hope, and modern anticipation, forming a bridge between the past and the future. This is why many prophecy interpreters see the red heifer as a potential trigger for accelerating end-time events. In historical context, the ceremony has not been performed for nearly 2 millennia, since the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, meaning the return of such a ritual would mark an unprecedented shift in the modern era. It would symbolize a revival of biblical practices that have been absent from Jewish life for centuries, re-establishing a direct connection to the temple traditions that defined much of ancient Israel's religious identity. This is why the red heifer is surrounded by so much anticipation. It's not simply about one animal, but about what its presence makes possible in terms of fulfilling scriptural prerequisites. Those who follow this prophecy believe that once the ceremony is carried out, it will clear the way for other prophetic milestones to unfold. Yet, there is also caution in this expectation, because any perceived movement toward rebuilding the temple inevitably stirs political and religious tensions, particularly in Jerusalem, where the sacred site is contested. Still, the appearance of a red heifer that meets the exacting biblical requirements fuels belief that we are witnessing the alignment of events foretold long ago. In this way, the prophecy of the red heifer functions both as a tangible sign and as a powerful symbol, linking the ancient purification ritual to broader expectations about the culmination of history and the unfolding of divine plans. The selection process for the red heifer is one of the most stringent and meticulous procedures found in any ancient or modern religious practice. According to the requirements recorded in the Hebrew Scriptures, the animal must be completely red, without even 2 hairs of a different color, and it must be free from any physical blemish or defect. It must also never have been used for labor, which means it cannot have been yoked, carried burdens, or been involved in any work whatsoever. These strict qualifications make finding such an animal extraordinarily rare, and historically, only a handful of red heifers have ever been identified that met the criteria. In modern times, breeders who are aware of these requirements go to great lengths to ensure that any potential candidate is raised in controlled environments, protected from injury, and kept in conditions that prevent disqualification. Veterinarians and religious authorities may conduct multiple inspections, sometimes over the course of several years, to ensure that the animal continues to meet the biblical description as it matures. Even the smallest deviation, such as the appearance of a few non-red hairs or a minor injury, can disqualify the heifer from the sacred purpose. This rarity fuels the prophetic weight given to any confirmed candidate, as believers see it not only as an agricultural success, but as a sign of divine timing. The process of inspection itself often becomes a publicized event, drawing the attention of religious scholars, prophecy watchers, and international media. These strict guidelines are rooted in the idea that the sacrifice must be perfect in every respect, symbolizing purity, holiness, and complete dedication to its sacred function. In many ways, the search for the perfect red heifer mirrors humanity's longing for signs and milestones in the unfolding of prophetic history, where even the smallest details matter. Because the requirements are so exacting, the emergence of a qualified heifer is often seen as miraculous, or at the very least, divinely orchestrated. This meticulous selection process ensures that when the ceremony is finally performed, it will be carried out with complete adherence to the ancient commandments, leaving no question about its validity in the eyes of those who hold to the prophecy. The rarity of finding such a heifer adds urgency and a sense of inevitability to the prophetic narrative, making each inspection and announcement a potential turning point in the eyes of believers around the world. The ceremonial preparations for the red heifer sacrifice are deeply rooted in ancient tradition, blending agricultural care, priestly rituals, and strict adherence to biblical instruction. Once a qualified heifer is identified, it is not simply left in a pasture until the appointed time. Instead, it is kept under careful observation, often in a specially designated and protected area to prevent accidental injury or disqualification. The location is typically chosen for its ritual purity, away from possible sources of contamination according to biblical law. Priestly authorities, trained in the specific requirements of the ceremony, oversee every stage of preparation, from the heifer's diet to its handling, ensuring it remains unblemished until the day of the sacrifice. The site of the sacrifice is also prepared in accordance with ancient prescriptions, often requiring precise measurements, materials, and positioning to align with sacred tradition. Even the wood used for the fire and the manner in which it is arranged follow modern patterns handed down from antiquity. The priests themselves must undergo extensive purification rituals before participating, reflecting the seriousness of their role and the sanctity of the event. Every action down to the collection of ashes after the burning is carried out in a precise sequence, as even the smallest deviation could render the ceremony invalid in the eyes of those who uphold its significance. The ashes are then carefully gathered, mixed with water from a pure source, and stored for future use in purification rites, in accordance with the biblical command. This level of preparation is not only a matter of religious observance, but also a symbolic act, reflecting the anticipation of prophetic fulfillment. Each step is seen as a link in a chain that connects the ancient past to the unfolding of future events, carrying with it the weight of centuries of expectation. The meticulous nature of these preparations also serves to heighten the sense of significance among believers, for whom the completion of such a ceremony is not merely a historical reenactment, but a marker of divine timing. As the day of the ritual draws near, anticipation builds not only among those directly involved, but also among watchers and scholars worldwide, who see in these preparations a living sign of prophecy in motion, waiting for the moment when tradition and expectation meet in the fulfillment of long-awaited event. The potential global impact of the red heifer ceremony extends far beyond the boundaries of Israel, as its religious, political, and cultural implications ripple across continents. For many faith traditions, the event is not merely a ritual, but a significant prophetic marker that could signal the acceleration of end-time scenarios. Religious communities across the world, Christian, Jewish, and even those with a general interest in prophecy, closely watch for developments, interpreting them within the framework of their own beliefs. This heightened attention fuels discussion in churches, synagogues, and online forums, where interpretations vary but the sense of urgency remains. Politically, the red heifer ceremony has the potential to stir sensitive debates, particularly in the Middle East, where sacred spaces are contested and religious symbolism carries immense weight. The location of the Third Temple, long a point of contention, becomes even more politically charged when paired with an event that some believe could herald its construction. Such a development could spark diplomatic tensions, as world leaders weigh the consequences of supporting, opposing, or remaining neutral in the face of a religious milestone with geopolitical consequences. On a cultural level, the event could influence art, literature, and media, inspiring a new wave of books, documentaries, and even films exploring its significance. News coverage from both religious and secular outlets would likely amplify global awareness, spreading the story to millions who may have had little prior knowledge of its importance. Social media platforms would become a battleground of interpretations, with some celebrating the event as a step toward divine fulfillment and others warning of the political and social unrest it might ignite. Economically, tourism could see a surge as pilgrims and curiosity seekers travel to witness or connect with the event firsthand, further intertwining faith and global commerce. The red heifer ceremony thus becomes more than an isolated religious practice. It becomes a focal point of global attention, capable of influencing diplomatic relations, media narratives, and the personal faith journeys of countless individuals. In an age where information travels instantly, its occurrence could send shockwaves across the globe in a matter of hours, ensuring that its impact is not confined to one land or one people, but is shared, debated, and interpreted by the entire world. The red heifer ceremony is far more than an ancient ritual. It is a symbol layered with deep spiritual meaning, historic significance, and far-reaching implications for our present and future. It ties together threads of prophecy, tradition, and human expectation, creating a moment that resonates with millions across the globe. Whether one approaches it from a perspective of faith, history, or geopolitics, its unfolding is a reminder that the events of the past continue to shape the narrative of our time. We are living in an era where symbolic acts can have worldwide consequences, and this is one of those rare moments that could stand as a turning point in history. Thank you for joining me on this journey of exploration and understanding. May the knowledge you've gained today deepen your perspective and inspire you to watch the unfolding of history with clear eyes and an open heart. I wish you insight, wisdom, and peace as you reflect on what this moment could mean for the world. Until we meet again, stay curious, stay aware, and may your path always be guided toward truth. Good luck, and thank you for listening.